It still feels surreal to find myself in this situation. Never in a million years did I think I would be living through this nightmare, but here I am. I never imagined sharing my story with strangers online, but after everything that's happened, I feel lost. Maybe an outside perspective will help me process the betrayal I've endured. Carla and I met during her first year of college at a fraternity party. She was part of a sorority, and my fraternity was hosting an event. It was easy to connect since we shared mutual friends. As we talked, we discovered we had grown up just a few towns apart. It felt like fate. Whenever we traveled home, I'd offer to drive her. It was only a small detour for me, but those extra minutes together strengthened our bond. Over time, our friendship deepened into something more. Our relationship felt effortless, supported by our close-knit families who quickly embraced us as a couple. We shared the kind of love that felt unshakable, the kind that makes you believe in forever. When we met, I had 2 years left before finishing my degree, while Carla was just beginning hers. Naturally, I graduated first. An incredible job opportunity awaited me 3 hours away from campus, so I moved back home. Meanwhile, she stayed behind to finish school. Long distance was difficult, but we made it work. I admired her dedication. She dreamed of becoming a lawyer, and I knew how much effort that required. I had it all planned out. I knew she was the one. I felt it in my bones. I spent years saving, determined to buy a place in the city so that when she pursued law school, we could begin the next chapter of our lives together. I was willing to be the one to sacrifice, to move for her, to build a home where she could thrive. After she graduated, she moved in with me in my hometown while preparing to apply for law school. She wanted to take a semester off before diving into her studies again, and I supported her decision. It was a chance for us to spend time together before the next big step. Looking back now, I see all the red flags I ignored, the moments that should have made me question things. My father, Clark, had always taken an interest in Carla, but I chalked it up to him trying to integrate her into the family. His frequent calls to her never seemed suspicious, at least, not at the time. If I ever brought it up, Carla would laugh it off, saying they were just talking about upcoming family events. Then there was the day he called her while she was in the shower. Her phone rang, and when I saw my dad's name on the screen, I answered. He sounded surprised and, now that I think about it, annoyed to hear my voice instead of hers. He quickly recovered, saying he had called to ask about a repair in the apartment, something Carla had mentioned but that I hadn't gotten around to fixing. I told him I didn't remember her asking me to fix anything, but if she had, I would take care of it. He dismissed it, saying maybe he was mistaken, and ended the call. I see it all now, the little things that should have made me question their relationship. But I didn't. That morning felt like any other. Carla made us breakfast, kissed me goodbye, and wished me a good day before I left for work. A few hours later, I realized I had forgotten some important documents for a meeting. I decided to swing by the apartment during lunch to grab them. I didn't tell Carla I was coming. I figured she'd be studying for her LSATs, and I didn't want to disturb her. Besides, I was only going to be there for a minute. When I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed a familiar van in the visitor section. It looked just like my dad's. Even then, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he had come over to discuss that supposed repair with Carla. Maybe they were sorting it out. As I stepped inside, my heart stopped. A trail of clothes led from the front door to our bedroom. His work boots sat near the entrance, his pants carelessly discarded on the floor. A black bra. A pink thong. Then, the sound, one I never should have heard. Something inside me shattered. I knew. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. I needed proof. No one would believe me otherwise. Moving like I was in a dream, no, a nightmare, I bent down, gathered their clothes in one hand, my phone in the other, and walked toward the bedroom. The door was open. For a moment, I just stood there, staring. My father, my own father, was lying in bed with my girlfriend. The love of my life. I threw their clothes at them, my voice raw with betrayal as I demanded an explanation. They scrambled, eyes wide with panic. My father, naked except for his socks, lunged for my phone, but I pushed him back. He hit the dresser and crashed to the floor. Carla shrieked. I turned the camera toward her. How could you? My father started shouting at me like I was a child, like I was the one in the wrong. Furious, he fumbled for his clothes. I told them I had come home for something work-related, that I had no idea I was about to walk into this. I had given everything to this relationship, and in return, they had torn my life apart. I told them both that if they weren't gone by the time I returned, I would send the video to everyone. My father's face paled. He begged me not to tell my mother, swearing it was a mistake, that it would never happen again. But I was done listening. I left. After everything I had just witnessed, I felt like the world had crumbled beneath my feet. My father, the man I trusted, the man I looked up to, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And Carla, the woman I loved, the woman I had built my future around, had shattered everything we had with her selfishness. I stood there in the apartment, my heart racing, my hands trembling, staring at them. My father scrambling to get dressed, Carla sobbing, covering herself in shame. I could hardly hear them over the sound of my own thoughts. The betrayal was deafening. With a voice colder than I had ever heard from myself, I told my father he had one chance to confess to my mother. If he didn't, I would make sure she knew the truth, everyone would. I left them there, still in their panic, and walked out the door. Getting into my car, I drove back to work in a daze, my mind replaying everything over and over. When I arrived, my boss took one look at me and knew something was wrong. She asked if I was okay, and I tried to insist that I was fine, that I could still handle the meeting. But she didn't believe me. She pressed, and before I could stop myself, I pulled out my phone and showed her the video. She watched in stunned silence. Not only had my girlfriend cheated on me, but she had done it with my own father. My boss was speechless, her face filled with disbelief and sorrow for me. She offered her support, telling me to take time off, that the company would be fine without me for a few days. But I refused. I told her I needed to focus, needed something to anchor myself. The meeting was important, and it was the only thing I had control over at that moment. During the meeting, I put on a fake smile, forcing myself to act normal. My boss kept stealing glances at me, probably wondering how I was holding it together. The truth was, I wasn't. I was crumbling inside, but I had to keep moving forward. I had to. At the end of the day, she pulled me aside again, offering a place to stay if I needed it. Her basement apartment was available. She and her husband, both in their 60s, had always been kind to me, almost like second parents. I thanked her but told her I would think about it. I wasn't ready to make any decisions. As the hours passed, dread settled deep in my chest. The thought of going back to the apartment, of seeing Carla, made me sick. I kept checking my phone, expecting messages or missed calls from my father, Carla, or my mother. Nothing. I don't even remember the drive home. When I pulled into the parking lot, I sat there for a long time, the weight of everything pressing down on me. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Then, without warning, the tears came. I cried harder than I ever had in my life. Eventually, I forced myself to go inside. Carla was sitting on the couch, her face tear-streaked, looking like a shell of herself. The moment she saw me, she stood up and tried to hug me, but I shoved her away. I told her to pack her things. She had to leave. Her eyes widened in desperation. "Please," she begged, voice trembling, "it's not what you think." I laughed bitterly. "Oh? So my father wasn't inside you? Is that what you're telling me?" My voice was ice, cutting through the room like a blade. She sobbed, claiming that he had forced her. I didn't believe her. "You're really going to lie to me now?" My voice rose. "Tell me the truth. How long has this been going on?" She hesitated, then whispered, "Not long." "Not long? What does that even mean? Stop lying to me." She broke down completely then, confessing that something had happened the previous Christmas. That night, I had gone to bed early after drinking too much, leaving her and my father alone in the living room. She told me they had kissed on the couch but pretended it never happened afterward. Then, after she moved in with me a few months ago, my father invited her to his house. At first, she said she refused, but he threatened to tell me what had happened between them before. I stared at her in disgust. "And you still went?" She fell to her knees, clinging to my legs, sobbing uncontrollably. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen," she cried. "I'm so sorry. I'll do anything, please." I yanked my legs free and turned toward my room. "Fine. Then I'll leave." She panicked, wrapping herself around me, trying to stop me. I dragged her down the hallway as she clung to me like a child, refusing to let go. I had had enough. I wasn't leaving my own home. With shaking hands, I started packing her bags. I carried them to the hallway, throwing them outside one by one as she collapsed on the floor, screaming and crying. "It's time for you to go," I said, my voice cold and final. When she still wouldn't move, I pushed her away. "If you don't leave, I'll call the police. And I'll send the video to everyone." That did it. She got up and left. That night, I called my mother. When she picked up, she asked if I had seen my father. He hadn't come home all day. For a brief moment, I considered keeping quiet, giving my father the chance to confess. But then I thought about my mother, the woman who had loved him for decades. She deserved the truth. I took a deep breath and said, "I'm so sorry to tell you this over the phone, but," and then I let it all out. I sobbed like a child as my mother listened in stunned silence. The next day, my father finally returned home, trying to act as if nothing had happened. He fed my mother some pathetic excuse about drinking too much at his brother's house, saying he had passed out there. But she already knew. She kicked him out. We don't know where he's living now, and we don't care. I later found out that he had also been fired from his job. For a while, I considered keeping the video to myself. But as I sat in my empty apartment, thinking about the destruction they had caused, I knew I couldn't just let them walk away from this unscathed. So I sent the video. To the family group chat. To my friends. To our mutual friends. I wanted them to feel everything my mother and I had felt. It didn't take long for the fallout to spread. My father became the talk of our small town, though my mother had been too kind to tell the truth before. She had simply told people he was on a fishing trip. But now everyone knew exactly what kind of man he was. As for Carla, her life fell apart. Her parents, disgusted by what she had done, cut her off financially, leaving her unable to continue law school. She was now crashing on the couches of her sorority friends, with nowhere else to go. And my father? He was living in a run-down caravan on the outskirts of town, alone and disgraced. Then, something unexpected happened. Carla's older sister, Charlotte, reached out to me. She apologized for everything, saying she had always been on my side, that she had seen how much I had done for her sister. She still wanted to be in my life. So, I took the chance. I invited her for coffee. She studied psychology in Edinburgh and now runs her own clinic in the city. And who knows? Maybe life has something unexpected in store for me after all.